Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. Excuse me, I've been trying to do this intro now 3 times. Um, but welcome back to another news roundup. We got some news for this week, some interesting bits here and there. We got some other videos coming out as well. Like I said in the last video, I was planning on putting out some content, but just never got around to editing it. So it will be put out this week. But first, we have a news roundup to get to. So let's cut this intro short and let's just dive right on in. So the first bit of news that we're going to discuss is the box office, because we had some interesting developments happen at this week's box office, or this weekend's box office. We had some new releases here and there, which we'll talk more about when we get to August's box office recap. But as I do with news roundups, we talk about some of the more major releases and talk about their opening weekends or anything else that's happening. So in the case of this week, we had The Bad Guys 2. I know we had other films like The Naked Gun and other things like that, but that's kind of specific audiences, whereas with this film especially, it's carrying a little bit more of a pricey tag to it. Pricey investment to it, and more notably, it's also a sequel to a very recent flick. So it's not like The Naked Gun, where it's kind of like a very specific kind of film. So we're gonna talk about The Bad Guys 2, and we did a review for The Bad Guys 2, or at least I did, and I enjoyed myself with it. So. Coming out of the weekend, the sequel to The Bad Guys collected a soft, I would say, global debut of $44.5 million. And according to Variety, the production cost amount to at least $80 million, which seemed to match out from the original film. I thought the original film, for some reason, was a lot lower, but it actually was almost the same price tag. No disclosure of any marketing expenses, at least as far as I read. So, per calculations, bare minimum, the film will need to generate at least $160 million to become profitable, and it will need to generate at least $200 million in order to become, to meet company standard, or to meet, now the new standards that are out there to break even. So, per the numbers that were the original, I mean, based on what I read box office wise, this seems to be pacing a little bit better than what came before. I can't say with confidence, though, that this has legs, considering the release windows, because the original came out in April, and this is coming out in August. So very different time frames. One came out in the spring, this one came out at the tail end of the summer season. So it's very, very different time, very different seasons it's approaching. So we'll see. There's no major releases. We have Freaky Friday, the sequel to Freaky Friday, coming out next week, but I highly doubt that's going to do any big business. And then we have Weapons, which is a horror film, which I think that might do a little bit more business. That might give it a run for its money. But for kids wise, I think that it's going to have a lot of room, and I think that it has potential to actually do fairly well. It's got good reception to it as well, so there's a lot of things going for it, and it's not as pricey as it could have been. Usually with movies, you can push and push for more money. This appears to have actually stable. It appears to have just settled for just what they had previously, so didn't push for more money this time around. So all signs are pointing to potentially good, but we'll see how the next few weeks transpire for this film. But so far, off to a decent start. I wouldn't say it's a great start considering just the budget, but seeing as where things were previously and potentially where things can go in the next few weeks, this may be a good thing. But we'll have to wait and see. So, speaking of may or may not be good things, let's talk about the Fantastic Four, because we talked about the Fantastic Four last week, I think. Yeah, we talked about it last week, their box office, and I said then that I didn't feel as confident that it would reach the higher marks that it would need to hit. And well, it is probably going to be struggling to do bare minimum because coming off the second weekend, the Fantastic Four First Steps fell a sharp decline of at least 66%. Now that puts it at behind Captain America: Brave New World, which according to my research, according to Variety, Captain America: Brave New World was down 68%, and Thunderbolts, I believe, was down something like 50% or something like that. It was like actually, not as high, even though it went off to do less than Captain America in terms of the global gross. The Marvels still has the worst, being that of 78% when it was released, when its second weekend came along. So, but as the film stands now, domestic gross coming off the weekend was at $40 million, and additional $39.6 million from the international market. So worldwide gross now is sitting at $368.7 million. And based on the information that is out there, Disney is, or at least per what information is available, because Disney is not wanting to release any solid numbers of the production itself, because sources like Variety are claiming that the production cost, excluding marketing, cost, quote, more than $200 million. So we don't know exactly what the figures are for this film. It could be 250 as a production. It could be, just 215. We don't know. We have no idea. But regardless, it does not look like it's going to be going anywhere higher than potentially like 500 to 550. That's my guess. Especially when you got a drop-off period like this. I think that you're probably going to be getting around 500 to 550. And bare minimum, if we're just talking like as we did before with last week, if we're just talking bare minimum, the movie would cost $200 million as a production, an additional $100 million for marketing, because that's how Marvel likes to roll when it comes to marketing. At least a lot of times that's how they do it. Bare minimum, it's a $300 million production. So, bare minimum, the movie would have to do $600 million. But I believe that the true break-even point, or at least the standard of what this film needs to do, is something more to the effect of $900 million, timesing it by 3. And it's nowhere going to be close to that. I had never thought, like I said last week, I don't think it had that kind of power anyway, even if it didn't have a sharp decline. But this pretty much shapes this year to be the worst year in Marvel Studios' history. I mean, it absolutely is the worst year that they've ever had. None of their films will be turning a profit. This likely will not turn a profit. Like I said, I'm predicting like 500, 550 at this point, which would make it the highest grossing of the 3 films between Captain America and Thunderbolts. It would be the highest grossing, but it's not going to really amount to much. So it's just been a bad year. It's just been a pretty bad year. I think that they are super relieved that they have 2 heavy hitters coming out next year with Spider-Man and the next Avengers. I think that they're super happy about that because, yeah, this ain't it. This just ain't it. I think there's 2 reasons for why there's a sharp decline. One of them I think is a bit obvious. The obvious one obviously being that, fatigue is a huge part of it. I think people are just getting, again, exhausted with superheroes, and they're just getting exhausted with the volume of that content. But I think another part of it has to do with the reception to these brands, or lack thereof if you're talking about Thunderbolts, because nobody knew what the hell Thunderbolts were. That's why Marvel tried to throw up the new Avengers tag the week after the movie played to try to ring up sales, and that didn't work. The Fantastic Four, as it stands, they don't come with the biggest of fans to the general public, especially when you consider the last few attempts that they've had at the series. With the 2015 version, the Chris Evans films, they weren't received all that well. At best, they were average. At worst, they were poor. Um, so I I was initially optimistic that this may indeed be like an outlier to what is the worst year for Marvel, but now coming off of this week, it's like no, yeah, that the optimism is now right out the window. So yeah, dude, it is a very it is a bad time to be it is a bad time to be at Marvel Studios right now. At least for now. Like I said, next year they're going to have a better year. By far, they're going to have a better year. And I think that, again, it illustrates a lot about where people's interests are. It's not to do with brand new content. It's not to do with brand new characters. People will clamor for it, but they won't show up for it. They want to show up for things that they are familiar with and that they love. Hence, Spider-Man. Or look at the films that have done well so far recently. Black Panther 2, Deadpool and Wolverine. These are films that carry characters and actors that people love, and they want to stick with these people. They don't want to see new incarnations. That's why you're also hearing about Marvel recasting people like Iron Man and Captain America, because they know those IPs have value to them, and that they more than likely will give them a return on investment. So there's a lot of reshaping going on, I'm pretty sure, especially coming off of this year. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of reshaping that's happening right now. So, yeah. So, yeah, not a great year. It was a bad year. A bad year, not to sugarcoat it. It was a bad year for Marvel. And I think that they're just happy now to move forward for next year. So, yeah. So, it sucked. It was not a good year. So hopefully next year it will be a little bit of a brighter spot for them, and it probably will, considering what's coming out the pipe. So coming down the line. So speaking of things that are coming down the line, according to multiple sources, specifically John Krasinski's Instagram, Paramount Pictures will be moving forward with the third installment in the Quiet Place, in the main Quiet Place series. Now, according to Variety, John Krasinski, who helmed the first two films, he'll be returning to direct, to write, and produce the third installment. No confirmation of any returning cast members as of this time, so no confirmation of Emily Blunt, as well as the kids, Cillian Murphy, no confirmations there. But we do have a release date, which is July 9th, 2027. This was expected. We all knew that this would happen at some point, considering, just the success the series has had recently with the spinoff last year, which was A Quiet Place Day One. I didn't have any interest really to see it, but it did well, ended up turning profit. It still plays, with today's audiences, as evident with that spinoff. And also, I believe that the recent failure that was If, which was John Krasinski's film, I also think plays a big part into why this film's also happening as well. So, I personally like the series. I think it's, I wouldn't say it's highly inventive or creative, but I think that it's fun. I think it plays with the concept in fun ways. So, and I like the building of the world. It's not completely it's not like Last of Us, where you can just feel the scale of everything. It's very, very toned down, and it keeps it character centric, which I like. So I would be interested to revisit these characters, especially given where part 2 kind of leaves things in a bit of a cliffhanger. So I'd be interested, and it's good to hear that the original creatives are coming back, and likely the cast as well. So we'll see how this pans out. It's good to see that they're finally moving forward with it. So definitely looking forward to seeing how they round out this trilogy. And that's all. That's all I can really say. I'm just really, really, really interested to see what they do. So. Alrighty, we've got a couple of trailers to discuss for today, and then we're going to call it a day. So let's get into it. So the first trailer we're going to discuss is the official trailer for Zootopia 2. Now, we talked about the teaser. There wasn't really much of anything with the teaser, so I couldn't really give you an opinion on the film. At least I don't believe I did. But now we have a full trailer. Now we're getting a much better view as to how the film looks, its time, the story, and stuff like that. And it just doesn't really do much for me. I mean, to be honest, as the trailer played, I just found myself rather tuned out. It just doesn't really capture a genuine spark in my eyes. I mean, it plays pretty standard than what I recall the original did, because the original, it tackled some very interesting ideas, conversations revolving around inequality, racism. It kind of touches on some really interesting things, especially for a Pixar film, because Pixar is more kind of like metaphysical, or more about the emotional states of people. It kind of touches more on a social landscape, whereas this, it's kind of dipping its toes more in a political landscape, which I found to be interesting. Or at least it still is in that vein of the social commentary, but it's like you can sense the presence of other real world conversations taking place, which I found rather interesting. But I don't know, maybe this film might do more than what I'm thinking it'll do. I have my doubts, honestly. I will be seeing it because I'm pretty sure my brother would want to see it. But yeah, it just doesn't really do much for me. I mean, it just really doesn't do much. I can't really say more than that. I know that it will make money. I know it will. It's coming out. It's no coincidence this is coming out at the same time as Moana 2 came out. So I think that Disney's trying to play to that Thanksgiving window. So I think they know what they're doing with this. So yeah, I think it'll make money. I just don't think that it'll do much for me personally. But we'll just have to wait and see. So, all right. Next trailer we're going to discuss is for a film called Goat. This is starring Caleb McLaughlin. I think that's how you say his name. Kid from Stranger Things. Gabrielle Union, Stephen Curry, who also is a producer on the film, Nick Kroll, and David Harbour, another Stranger Things actor. Directed by Tyree Delia, I think that's how you say his name. He's in his feature debut with this. This has a release date for February 13th, 2026. And aesthetically, it's, it kind of is riffing off of the Into the Spider-Verse motif, which I don't hate. I think it's more to do with how you meet that aesthetic with a certain kind of energy, which is where me and Into the Spider-Verse kind of differ, because I'm not a fan of Into the Spider-Verse when it comes to its energy. But aside from that appealing aesthetic, I'm not entirely sure by the story. I feel like I would need to see another trailer to really kind of see where things are, because it doesn't look completely without merit, but at the same time, I can also see myself rather bored, given just how they're framing the story, because it's basically another one of those, hey, trying to make it to, that phrase, I made it to the big leagues, like that kind of phrase. That's essentially what this is, just someone who's ambitious, trying to prove himself. We've seen those sort of stories done time and time again, so, but it doesn't look completely lifeless to me. I think that it could be interesting. So I won't completely write it off just yet, but at the moment, I'm not entirely convinced by what I saw. So I'd probably need to see another trailer. But yeah, not entirely bad. Not bad. Generally speaking, I just don't know if I will completely care. But we'll see with another trailer if I'm won over or not. So. All right. Next trailer we're going to discuss is the official trailer for The Lost Bus. There was a teaser that came out, but I never talked about it just because it really wasn't anything. I think it was like one shot of Matthew McConaughey, and that was it. Now we got a full trailer now, and now I feel like talking about this. So this stars Matthew McConaughey and America Fiera, I think it's how I say her name. Co-written and directed by Paul Greengrass, who you guys are probably familiar with movies such as United 93, which I think is fairly good. The Bourne Ultimatum, as well as a couple of other Jason Bourne films here and there. Captain Phillips, and most recently, News of the World, which I thought was alright. This comes out on September 19th, 2025, on Apple TV Plus. I think that there's a limited release the week prior. I could be wrong. But I can appreciate the talent that is behind this. You know, Matthew McConaughey, Paul Greengrass, very interesting people. And, you know, I can appreciate the specific kind of story being told with these, you know, talents behind it. Execution-wise, the execution appears to be somewhat sincere, if it's not just the well-made trailer. I honestly don't know, though, if I would see myself seeking this out on Apple TV Plus. I don't know. Because on one hand, I just don't find myself extremely compelled by it. But I can acknowledge the potential that it has. Also, for another, my account got hacked a long time ago, and I literally would not be able to watch this wouldn't be able to watch this if I was interested. But it looks interesting. I do appreciate, again, talent like Matthew McConaughey. I don't know where he's really been. I think he's been on more of the political scene as of late. But you know, he's a capable performer. I've seen him in some good stuff: Dallas Buyers Club, Interstellar. So yeah, interesting. But I don't know if I would. Dedicate time to sit down and watch it. I don't know. It's a maybe for me. I would have to really think about it, and I would need a different account to watch it. So interesting. But I don't know if I'm. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I'm gonna really be on the lookout for it, to be all honest. So, all right. Next trailer we're going to discuss is for a film called Eternity. This stars Miles Teller, Elizabeth Olsen, Callum Turner, I think that's how you say his name, and Davine Joy Randolph. I believe that's how you say her name. This is directed by David Fren. I think that's how. Sorry, I'm butchering a lot of names here. I think that's how you say his name. Sorry if I butchered it. He is known for movies such as The Cured and Dating Amber. This has a release date for November 2025, being distributed by A24. For what I was hoping this would be initially, I'm kind of disappointed by what is essentially a basic rom-com setup with a sci-fi aesthetic to be utilized as a visual background. Because it's basically taking the phrase, who would you spend the rest of your life with, in literal approaches. You know, basically that of, okay, we're now in the afterlife, and now there's two guys. One of them died a long time ago, but now we're all here in the afterlife, so now I have to figure out who I'm going to spend my life with. Like, it's not really for me. I'm not really a fan of these sort of stories either. These basic rom-coms, like, are these just, these by genre, it's just hard for me to get behind that of a rom-com because 99% of the time where it's going to go anyway. So why does it matter? And I also don't particularly care for these sort of setups, like a girl trying to decide between two dudes. It's like, why do I care? Like, I don't. I really don't. It just seems a bit too tropey, a bit too predictable. It's very interesting. So, not really for me. Just not really my thing. Not really my jam. I just don't think it really is that as creative as it thinks it might be. I just think it's very basic, to be honest. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. So. And finally, we have the official trailer for a film called Blue Moon. This is starring Ethan Hawke, Margaret Qualley, I think that's how you say her name, Bobby Cannavale, I think that's how you say his name, and Andrew Scott. This is being directed by Richard Linklater, who you guys may be familiar with movies such as the Before trilogy, which I have not seen yet and I would love to see. I've never gotten around to watching those movies. I've heard they're pretty good. Also directed Boyhood, which I enjoyed. Did Apollo 10.5, which was alright. Also most recently did Hitman, which was also alright. This is being released on October 17th, 2025. And I gotta say, I really dig the environment here. I really dig this very classy atmosphere, kind of echoing that of like Casablanca in a sense. Has this old-fashioned yet like kind of tender, potentially tender. Sorry, tender, not Tinder, not Tinder. Tender, tender, and yet like kind of potentially charming type of feeling to it. It seems interesting. Seems like it's very much leading with that sort of frame of mind. It's not to where it's like, like kind of a stagey kind of environment in some respects, because it seems as though that's taking place squarely in one like kind of bar like aesthetic, which I don't mind. I mean, I like that sort of idea approach. Writing seems potentially interesting. Performances seem cool, or at least the cast themselves seem nice. Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I'll definitely keep an eye out for this when it comes out. So yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. I definitely got to watch the Before trilogy because I've heard some good things about it. And Linklater is appealing, I guess. Lately he's not been that appealing for me, but maybe this might change my mind. Maybe this might be a different change of pace. But we'll have to wait and see. So, But yeah, those are my thoughts for this week, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Just a little bite-sized one for this week. But still a lot of topics to talk about. But you guys let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. Your guys' thoughts on The Bad Guys 2, how you guys felt its performance did, as well as the Fantastic Four's steep drop for going to 66%. Your thoughts on A Quiet Place 3 now finally happening. Your thoughts on the trailer for Zootopia 2. Your thoughts on GOAT, The Lost Bus, Eternity, and Blue Moon. Let me know all your thoughts on all these things in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.